So no, I used to think that having a baby is pretty much like having a kitten, but it's not. If anyone watching this is thinking it's pretty much the same, it's not. You could just get a kitten.
Okay.
We believe that babies sleep best when outdoor.
Okay.
So regardless of the weather,
Yeah.
the baby has to be outdoor every day.
Every day?
Every day. For example, the mother doesn't have time because she has some other tasks to do.
Yeah.
She might only put the baby to the balcony. So the baby would be sleeping in minus 20 degrees on the balcony for a couple of hours. And then you hear the baby crying and I know, okay, the baby's done with the nap.
What?
Yeah. As a parent,
Yes.
I'm much happier that my kids are growing up in Taiwan. Yeah, I also remember Taiwanese schools being demonized by everyone, how horrible it's going to be. But my own experience with my own kids and the Taiwanese schools is pretty good. People usually say that you're half something and half something. But for me, it's one something and one something. These things add up, actually. They don't make you less of something, they make you more.
Yes. All right, welcome back to FUNDAY Chat. This is part 2 with Bolan Anna. I'm your host, Wade. And so again, if you've missed the first episode, Anna and I actually talked about language learning. She has been in Taiwan for over 18 years. And so she's very well experienced. She's recently been on a hit popular show called 中文怪物, if you don't recognize her already. And so today, like we mentioned in the last episode, we want to talk more about her motherhood, what it means to be a parent, because she's actually a mother of 2. And so welcome back, Anna, to FUNDAY Chat.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Wade. Thank you for having me again.
Alrighty, so let's talk being a mother. I don't know, let me first ask, when you were younger, did you always, want to be a mother? Was that always a goal or part of your life?
I knew that I'm gonna have kids at some point, but it wasn't like my life goal to be a
Okay.
mother. Yeah.
Now in Poland, is it common? It's common for people to, even nowadays, right, to have kids?
I think it's pretty much like in Taiwan. So the elder generation, they would put some pressure.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so I would hear the pressure from the elder generations, but like talking about my high school friends, for example, I think there are only 1 or 2 of them who have kids.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, so it is a trend
So I
in
think
modern.
So I think it's quite similar
Okay.
comparing to Taiwan.
Okay, that's interesting. All right, so then now with, coming from, again, the Polish culture and being here in Taiwan and having kids here, because you did have your daughters here, right?
Yes.
What do you think is some of the biggest cultural difference when it comes to having kids?
I think exposing the kids to the outer world.
Okay, what does that
What
mean?
I mean is, for example, when we have a newborn baby
Yes.
in Taiwan, you take the baby and you lock it up somewhere for the first half a year. So the baby doesn't see the sunlight, so that the baby doesn't get any
Exposed to too much
to the
germs or
germs,
whatever.
to the air. Yeah, everything is polluted. Everything is potentially trying to
Harm the baby
yes,
and could kill the
yes,
baby.
and
yeah.
it's just opposite from what we do with newborn babies in Poland.
How do you guys?
So basically speaking, you take it back home, take the baby back home from the hospital, and then the baby is joining you in your daily tasks. So for example, the mothers of newborn babies don't go to the shops doing the groceries with the babies in the strollers.
Wow. Like
Babies-
newborn babies?
Yes, babies are not wearing masks or any kind of covers, just to make it clear.
Wow.
Yeah, the mothers are, doing the shopping, buying the potatoes, cabbages,
Just
meat,
everything.
taking the kid back home,
Yeah.
doing the dinner, the lunch
Wow.
for the family. And what does she do with a baby? We believe that babies sleep best when outdoor.
Okay.
So regardless of the weather,
Yeah.
the baby has to be outdoor every day.
Every day?
Every day. So if, for example, the mother doesn't have time because, for example, she has some other tasks to do,
Yeah.
she might only put the baby to the balcony. So the baby would be sleeping in minus 20 degrees on the balcony for a couple of hours. And then you hear the baby crying and I know, okay, the baby's done with the nap.
What?
Yeah. And if you have time, you walk the baby in a stroller, you go to the park.
Yeah. Well, talking about that, it actually does remind me of videos and clips I've seen where there's either some Scandinavian country where they have specific boxes where they could put the babies
Oh yeah,
out.
that's
Or even I saw a lot of family that have newborns. They all have a stroller lined up, and then all the parents are inside eating, and the babies are all.
Yeah.
They obviously covered up.
Yeah, they were properly to the weather. So if it's cold, they wear like snowsuits. They have blankets and stuff.
But they are outside, just like chilling.
They are outside. Yeah, and another thing is like, properly to the weather. So when it's cold, they have blankets and stuff. But when it's hot, they almost dress nothing. So there are a lot of babies, for example, going up for a stroll just in a diaper. Unlike Taiwan, but the babies are always covered with everything. And then they have like, the rush under everything.
Yes.
Yeah, because they're overheated.
Yeah.
And so it's completely different approach. But, my mom said, but actually it might make sense in Taiwan because Taiwan is being so hot most of the time.
Right.
So everyone has to learn to accommodate the heat since the early days. And in Poland, they have to treat the baby
for the
cold weather. So
you know what? Yeah. I think that makes sense. I think that's a good valid reasoning because culturally, even in terms of the weather, it's so cold. And when you guys are exposed from a younger age, you build that immune system. And for us in Taiwan, it's so humid. So you probably have to get the baby used to sweating. And then when they grow up, they can manage with the heat.
True.
Yeah, wow.
And it's also exposure to the germs when the baby starts crawling and stuff. We just put the baby on the floor. And I think in Taiwan, everyone needs a mat or something. When they decide to put the baby, it has to be on something. It cannot be directly on the floor.
Yeah, no dirt and not getting on the grass.
Yeah, and just to specify, in Poland, we also change shoes when we enter the home. We also wear slippers and stuff. So it's not like, the extreme version that everyone is wearing boots with mud and so on, and the baby is eating the mud.
Okay.
There are extreme examples of that as well.
Of course,
just talking about the average.
Yes.
Yeah, you just put the baby on the floor and whatever defines it might be, hair, it might be, the baby gets exposed. When you see the baby, not just examining but trying to eat, then you take the thing away from the baby.
Yes, of course. Yeah, with reason. Because I feel like there is a thing about overprotecting a child and then not, because again, I think most people know that it's not good, right? If you just completely isolate them, when they then later on are exposed to things, it could affect them even worse. So
it's like everything. You need to find 中庸之道.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's not easy to find one because there's no good point of balance. There's always something, that happens in between. All different shades of gray.
So then tell us about you having your kids here in Taiwan versus, let's say, if you had children back in Poland, what's the biggest difference?
Okay, so there's one thing about Polish mothers living in Taiwan.
Yeah.
If they knew that, giving birth to kids in Taiwan was so easy and, all the postnatal care you get.
月子中心.
Yeah. If they knew it before, they would have more kids and earlier.
Really?
Yeah. And I think it is kind of true because, I had absolutely no concept of 月子中心 before I came to Taiwan.
Yeah.
It was just
so there's
here.
Nothing like that.
No, no one has even heard of it. Like when I said, you have the newborn baby, you go back home and you still have to deal with the dinner for the family. No white song, nothing. And eating out in Poland is also super expensive. So, the mother has to...
super moms, have the baby and just go home.
Yeah, no one is you saying, oh, I'll come over and help you maybe once, maybe twice. You can ask, you can open up yourself and say, sorry, I can't deal with it. Could you please help me? Then everyone is up there to help you.
Okay.
But if you don't open up your mouth, everyone is assuming, okay, there have been so many mothers before you. There are going to be so many mothers after you. You're no special.
Okay.
And everyone has been doing this the same way.
For all of humanity.
Yeah, so basically speaking, expectations toward the new mothers are pretty high in Poland.
That's crazy.
So you have to handle up the baby. You have to handle up, the food for everyone, for yourself as well. Because if you're breastfeeding, you need to also make sure the bill for the baby.
Taking care of yourself.
Yeah, and for the husband who is providing for the family. So there was one time I went back to Poland. My Polish friend was having her third baby at the time. And she was, I think, 2 weeks after the birth. And I asked her if she needs anything. And she was like, no, it's all right. How about you come over to dinner tomorrow? I was like what?
Yeah.
I said, yeah, I'm cooking anyway for the family. So, you could come over and have a dinner with us. I said, hell no. I said, you should be taking rest, not cooking for me. It should be me bringing food for you. No, but you don't know what my husband likes. You don't know what my kids like. So I have to do it myself. I was like, oh my God.
So different.
Yeah, it hit me so badly at the time, because in Taiwan it's obvious, but for the first month after giving a birth, the woman has to rest.
Yeah.
And no one is expecting her to do anything. The most she can do is taking care of the baby. And no one would be expecting her to be wiping the floor, cleaning the bathroom, cooking for everyone, doing the groceries.
Human. Give the woman a rest.
So it's a whole different approach.
That is crazy. Yeah, so I mean, I personally, obviously, because I don't have any kids, but want to one day. I think when I started learning about like 月子中心 through friends and family members, that's when I really realized how, you know, it's such a amazing concept and it's such a great time. Because I think what's cool is that they also do all these like lessons, right? That they kind of talk you through, coach you through parenting. Because some people, I mean, obviously generationally and historically, it was like passed down generation, right? Yeah. Grandparents, they will teach you, you know, this is what you do. This is what.
But I think medical knowledge also changes throughout the ages. So, you know, if you think about my grandmother, what she did with her kids, about true. What my mom did with me.
Yes.
And then I said, Mom, don't touch my kids. Yeah, that all changes. It all evolves. It's not that what they did was wrong. It's just that now we know that we can do it better.
Yes. It's just there is a cultural difference. And as technology and things advance, like there's better ways to do it. So I think it's great to give those, you know, parents, especially the mom. So yeah, that's so crazy to actually think.
So no, I used to think that having a baby is pretty much like having a kitten, but it's not. If anyone watching this is thinking it's pretty much the same, it's not. You could just get a kitten.
Okay. Because I've heard, you know, they say before having kids, it's a good way to practice by having a pet. So like having a dog.
It's called different.
Completely different?
Yeah, it's completely different. Yeah.
Okay.
You can have a kitten, but, you know, having a child is a whole new story.
Very different.
And I think one thing in common between Taiwan and Poland is the social expectations towards parents, especially mothers.
How so?
Like, for example, you know, that the child has to be this, and this, and who is responsible for a child being this, and that is the mother, right? So if the child is not ticking all the boxes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And socially, you think?
Socially, I think, there's both in Taiwan and Poland, there's this pressure. I think it is, you know, slightly different. But for example, there was one time, I remember we went to a convenience store with my daughter.
Yeah.
And she accidentally passed by something and it fell.
Okay.
It happens.
Yeah, of course.
It happens.
Do that too, yeah.
And, you know, the crowd was expecting me to yell at her. But I was like, I was... Like you know, it happens. Like, you know, it happens to everyone. You pass by something and it drops. It maybe was not put there appropriately. Maybe she touched it accidentally, but it didn't cause anything. Even if it did, still.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, oh, foreigner mothers, they don't give any education or discipline to the kids. I was like, like, what do you want me to do? The show for you? Like, you know, to smash the kid, and so that you're happy. Like, nothing happened, basically speaking. And I think. In Poland, it would be like more like, oh, the child crying. I think Taiwanese have much more accommodation, let's say, for the kids crying in public spaces.
Oh, okay.
So the kid is crying, so you know that the parent is going to do something about it.
Yeah.
And in Poland, you know, the kid opens the mouth, so the parents are bad parents because the child opened its mouth.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think it's quite similar, but, you know, we have social expectations.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of pressure.
Yeah. Wow. Man, it's eye-opening because I think, there's so many factors to it because especially, I mean, those are life you bring to the earth and then you're responsible for the life, you know, for until they're able to grow up and go on their own. But I mean, there's so many facets to that that we don't take into account. Yeah. But even now, let's talk more specifically maybe about culturally. How has that sort of adapted, like in your head when you grew up versus how your daughters are growing up? How is that different? As a parent,
yes, I'm much happier that my kids are growing up in Taiwan because looking back on all the stupid things I did when I was growing up, I think them having, basically speaking, no social life in Taiwan, no time to explore the world on themselves. Just, you know, all the things they have to do is their school and their homework. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's all their life.
I think that makes me much more in peace with them growing out. Yeah, because in Poland, I think school life is not as important as learning like all the social aspects and hobbies and exploring. It is also important, but I think we also put a lot of like emphasis on doing things on your own, not necessarily the school curriculum. So, you know, when I was a kid, I would maybe just be assigned, come back home at 8 p.m.
Wow.
And at the times there were no cell phones. So, you know, I would go out and no one knew where I was with whom, doing what. So, you know, just judging from the things I climbed, the things I ate, the 2 times I was sinking in the water somewhere. There's always, you know, a bunch of friends with me.
Always a group of people like that.
But still, I should have died a couple of times by now, but I didn't. So, having the experience I have from my past, I'm quite happy that in Taiwan, my kids, they kind of live a safer lifestyle, let's say.
Very structured.
Yeah, so this is perspective from a parent. But for a kid, I'm quite glad that I had the experiences I had.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, nothing really bad has happened to me. And I was always a very well-behaved child. But I think those were also very valuable lessons for me.
Yes.
To know the boundaries, to learn who I can trust on, who I cannot trust on.
A lot of more social skills, I'd say. Yeah.
I think my stomach also benefited from all the things I ate. Because now I can eat, basically speaking, everything and nothing happens. But I think, when they live their life in Taiwan, I think they'll be exposed at some time, to the world outside their bubble. But maybe I hope they'll be wise enough to use
make decisions.
All the things that come to them in a proper way.
Right,
just say, yes, finally I'm an adult, I can do anything.
Yeah. I think that's the thing, right? Again, like we said earlier, how do we find that balance? Because I do also appreciate, for my personal upbringing, having experienced the Taiwan system. And so it was always like class, then 补习班, then music, then this, then that, and all these extracurriculars. So you wouldn't have much time to be like, let me go out to the park and explore.
And there's no one to go out with.
Everyone,
be the only
everybody is like doing those tasks. So then when I moved to South Africa, which was high school, and then we finished around like 2, I'm like, okay. And then what are we going to like 补习班 afterwards? And they're like, no, you just do your homework and then you're free.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do I do? And just like whatever, right? And it's so crazy.
What is whatever?
We don't even know. Like when the possibility is like limitless, then you're like, I don't know what to do. And so, but it is cool to have that balance. I think like for you, probably being a mom and like being exposed to that, you will at some point probably also want to allow your children to have similar exposure, but in a safer environment.
Yeah. So I'm like, for example, from time to time, we do invite their classmates home, like maybe once a year, once half a year.
Yeah.
And, the parents are always so surprised. Like,
really?
Wow, the kids are getting social life. I was like, it was my everyday life in Poland.
Yeah.
Only if, someone was punished for, passing boundaries to fire, or like, for example, being sick from eating something. Then they wouldn't go out. But for the other reasons, it was our daily life. So, I'm always so surprised, but they are so surprised that we're inviting the kids over. Yeah. And there was another time, I think I offered to take the kids somewhere, and everyone was like, oh, wow. I was like, okay.
Not that big a deal.
I said, okay, of course, that's no problem. I think I can handle. But, deep in my heart, I was thinking, they're big enough to handle themselves.
Yeah.
They're not like newborn babies, but, cry at different times for
everything.
Already at the age you can talk reason to them.
Yes.
So I think, it's just you have to trust your kid.
Yeah.
You have to trust your guts. If you think something is wrong, then it really might be wrong.
Yeah.
So you have to maintain a good relationship with the kid. So when something's really wrong, the kid is going to tell you.
Yes.
I still don't know if I've succeeded or failed in this one.
Okay. But I think like, so in Taiwan, I wonder, how do you actually feel in terms of them having the education and then also growing up in the culture? Do you think that they are having more of a balance, or is it because you're at home, you're also making sure they have a balanced life? Or do you feel like, let them enjoy, or let them just be brought up in the system, and, it's important to learn, to get all these skills in place now, and then later on they can enjoy, the more freedom like you had when you were younger?
I think it is important to show them that there are different ways. Every year we go back to Poland, we're meeting with our neighbors. I have 6 kids, and they're homeschooling them.
Okay. Oh, wow. Very different.
So it's a whole different approach comparing to what they experience in Taiwan. So they can see there are some other options. Like, for example, going to school in Taiwan is a very serious thing. Asking for a leave for no reason doesn't work. In Poland, it did, actually.
Really?
As long as your parents know, it's okay.
Yes.
Because your parents are your parents, they decide.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So even if you disappeared from school for 2 weeks because your parents decided to take you, to Greece. On a cruise ship or something, no one would say a word.
Okay.
Yeah. But in Taiwan, I think it's different. But I told them, if we have something, I know that something is happening, something really cool you'll be interested in. I'm okay with taking you from school.
Yeah.
I would ask the teacher if it's okay on this way, if you don't have any important tests or something. I would take you so that you can see the outside world, how it looks like, to see if you like it, if you don't like it. Like, for example, I have a friends who also homeschool their kids in Taiwan. I think homeschooling is really like something
trendy or a new thing.
I think it's amazing, but it's not for everyone.
Yeah,
it's not for me.
Okay.
Because I think I don't have enough patience for my own kids.
Yeah,
like,
that's
to
true.
educate them in every aspect.
Yes, that's not easy.
Yeah, but I think
imagine.
if you can take your kid, for example, for a month to learn skiing, then for another month to learn scuba diving.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe then go to Africa on a safari and see the animals in real. And then maybe go to Egypt and see the pyramids and learn the history lesson there. I think you would learn so much better than just in school.
Yeah, I think so.
Also this year, we took the kids to Auschwitz camp in Poland.
Wow.
Yeah. Like, not a very fun experience, I would say, but a very valuable lesson.
Yeah.
And this year in school, in the history lesson, my daughter learned about Auschwitz camp. And she was like, I've been there.
That's cool.
I saw it.
Yes.
And the teacher, the thing they're saying is all true.
Yeah.
I was like, you see?
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think like learning hands-on, that's very helpful. And it is interesting that I think even, modern day, there are now newer school of thoughts of how to teach and how to educate. But yeah,
I
obviously.
think the school now is also the same school. Probably the audience remembers from their times.
Of course, yeah. Different.
Yeah,
and it's good to evolve for sure.
Yeah, I also remember Taiwanese schools being demonized by everyone, how horrible it's going to be. But my own experience with my own kids and the Taiwanese schools is pretty good.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's very good. Now, your children, obviously, they're multicultural, so they have, parts of the Taiwan, and they're growing up here, so they're very familiar, I'm sure, with Taiwan. And it's nice that you also take them back home, to Poland and let them exposed to that. But for them, how do they feel growing up in Taiwan? Obviously, just appearance-wise, they look somewhat different, but I'm sure culturally they don't feel any different.
No, they don't feel any difference.
Yeah, but how do you think for children, because I also kind of had that experience, right? But how do you think they experience the culture of being and living, growing up here in Taiwan?
I think when they speak Mandarin, they're Taiwanese. When they speak Polish, they're Polish. So they're whole two different personas living in them.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so I think, for like Taiwanese festivals coming over, like, for example, Chinese New Year, okay, so probably the holidays are coming. And then the Christmas is coming, okay, so the Christmas tree and the gifts are coming.
Yeah.
So I think they, how to put it into words? Like, people usually say, but you're have something and have something. But for me, it's one something and one something. These things add up, actually. They don't make you less of something, they make you more.
Yes.
Because besides one part of you, there is also another cultural part. And I think it's really cool to observe it.
Yeah.
Because, they get equally excited for both cultural aspects.
Yes.
And I think it's really amazing.
Yeah, that hits it on the nail for me, even because I also grew up and then, I'm like, I'm half Taiwanese, half South African, but I feel like that doesn't really encapsulate what our experience is, because when I'm in Taiwan and if I'm with my, Taiwanese people, Taiwanese friends, like I feel, and family, obviously I feel like I'm fully part of that. Yeah. And so I like that it's like you described, it's not half, it's more like 1+1, and we have that extra exposure, and we can enjoy, looking forward to the Chinese festivals and Chinese culture, but also like the Western, because that's been a part of who we are.
And I think it's an amazing value itself, especially in a modern, like global village kind of world.
Yeah, in a world that's just getting smaller and globalizing, like, benefits like this, it's nice that it's been a part of us, like on our default, because like default, your kids speak Mandarin, speak Polish, speak English, they're exposed to the culture, and they can be that bridge. I always think like, I appreciate that, I have this aspect of me that I can be the bridge to reaching South African people with Taiwanese people and exposing that culture. Because my South African side of the family, obviously before my dad, they wouldn't have known anything really much about Taiwan. And so now it's so cool because they're like, oh, I know this stuff about Taiwan, and then vice versa, It's so cool that we have that cross-cultural. So what do you think are some of the benefits that your kids also get to enjoy when they're in Taiwan, like being, again, multicultural?
I think there's a benefit in school.
In school?
So they have the social studies classes. And both of my daughters get pretty good grades in this one.
Okay.
And every single time they go get the test back, the feedback from the teachers, oh, I've never seen a foreigner scoring so good at those tests.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, should I tell the teacher or shall I keep it for myself? I say, no, you just,
Just
play.
let it be.
Let it be. The teacher is happy with you.
Yes,
like,
yes.
Why correct her?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so I think, they also have to adjust sometimes because usually when people call them foreigner, I don't know, actually you're not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Neither in Taiwan
Yes.
nor in Poland.
Yeah.
But, there are some situations, you just play along.
Yeah.
And, benefits you in a way.
Right.
You don't really have to always, stand up and raise your voice.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like it's like a game of cards, right? Sometimes
Yeah.
you have the card that you can play that can expose certain things, but you sometimes hold it closer to your pocket and you find the right timing to play it because, and that's something that I think I found out the older I got. So it's like, I think it's a good advice that you're giving your children because definitely like as they're growing up, there'll be times where, it'll benefit them to show this side or like not, and they can start to figure that out. Okay, with this closing aspect, I like to touch more just like in terms of, being a mom, like being a parent. And what do you think has been the most meaningful moment for you, like as a mother?
I think for me, it's pretty touching when my younger daughter says she doesn't want to grow up and she always wants to stay by my side.
Aww.
I think it's pretty touching. I think she loves me. I think, when she hits a proper age,
Yeah.
her idea of the world might be different and I might not be the center
Of her world.
Yeah. But, at this moment, I think, I might have done something wrong, but, she's so attached to me and, her dream life is living with me
live with mom.
forever and ever.
That's sweet. Yeah, I think it's crazy because I know, not from personal experience, but hearing so many parents say similar things in that it goes by like this, right? Like one moment you had the baby and then you're trying to figure things out. You're maybe, a lot of parents here, you get its own thing and then you come out of that and then you already, know how the baby works, how they function, what they need. And then before you know, they're going to school, they're walking, they're running, they're attending things, they're going out. Kids are taking the MRT by themselves, like they know their whole system. And then
it's like a computer game to me,
Say more. How does that?
Okay, so you get a baby at level 0.
Oh,
so
yeah,
just lying there and crying.
Yeah.
And you have to feed it.
Yes.
You need to change the diaper.
Yeah.
Make sure it's burped. And then it's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And you just resolve around these things.
For that
and
first
then,
phase.
Yeah, the baby stops crying and it has some playtime. And it's level 1 because it's not always sleeping anymore and you have to come up with something. Yeah. And then the baby starts growing. Then they start going to school and making friends. Maybe they fight with friends. Then when they are teenagers, maybe they have some love life.
Yeah.
Fortunately not. Hopefully not.
Yeah.
Then they go to university and the level
And
just gets up.
Yeah.
And the game is getting more and more demanding at some point. So my dad, he used to say that small kids, small problems, big kids, big problems. And I think it's pretty much it. So, when you say, it's having like moment, but at the time you don't feel it. When the baby is crying, it feels like it's hours, like the time has stopped.
Yes.
Yeah, and then when the kid goes out and doesn't come back home, it also feels like hours without the contact.
Yeah,
but that's true. I just feel, the kids are aging because I see them like from this big, becoming almost my height. But I'm still young. Yeah, so I kind of really enjoy watching them during the process. Yeah, so it's really like this only.
Man, yeah, I look forward to having my own and also going through all that. And the final question here, like, what sort of world do you hope that for your kids, especially like being multicultural and stuff, like what world do you wish that they would grow up in the future?
I think that I really wish for them to grow up in a much more embracing world comparing to what we grew up with. Now we have all the resources. We can imagine we have the internet. We can see literally what is happening on the other half on the world. Yeah, we can see how people live their life. We don't have to judge them by our own stereotypes or our own experience. Everyone has like their own experience. So I really hope that they can grow up in the world that they can embrace and the world can embrace them as well as unique persons, unique personalities.
Yeah, I appreciate that because I think the world is moving towards that. And it's, again, conversations like this and interacting with people who have these experiences, and even for the audience that are watching, I think to expand their mind and to grow and to learn and know more. And that really helps. Then it humanizes us, right? Because when we're unaware, it's just like it's different, and so you have to protect yourself because this is my tribe. But the more you understand, the more you're like, oh, we're not that different, right? Like similar experiences, we all have, you know, joy, happiness, sadness, and we go through things.
Yeah,
and
we all need food. We all need water.
Yeah.
We're actually not that different.
Yeah, exactly. And so when we can find that commonality, like I think that helps unites us. And so we need more of that in the world for sure. So thank you so much again, Anna, for coming in today.
Thank you, Wade, for having me.
For sharing, you know, about parenting and, you know, enjoy the process and give us some more insight. And also, if you missed the last episode, Anna talked more about the language learning aspect because she's basically a 中文怪物. So we're very excited to have the opportunity to talk to you about that. And so if you missed that, do check that out. But before we close off here, do you have any place, if people are going to, you know, try to look you up, what should they be typing in?
Oh, just type Poland Anna.
Poland Anna.
Yeah, on any
all
social
media
media.
platforms.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like YouTube, Instagram, Facebook.
Okay. And that's where you can find her and keep in touch. And we, again, appreciate your insights, and we will be seeing everyone on the next episode. So,
Thank you, Wade.
All right. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye.